My biggest concern is more about, will Kyle Shanahan continue to put his quarterback in harm's way for 2 yards, 3 yards? I mean, his risk reward on what he's willing to use Trey as a runner for.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He's not Larry Zonka. He's not Tom Rathman, and they treat him kind of like he is. I mean, I'll tell you the one thing I didn't like from Shanahan, his usage or the way he went about yesterday's game, is I can't stand the punting on 4th and 1 at the 41 in the third quarter when the game was 10-7 and the Bears had gotten the Pettis touchdown. I felt like the momentum was hanging right there. Niners get to their own 41. It's 4th and 1, and they decide to punt. And
Lance
I thought that was
for
the
8 yards on 3rd and 9. And on 4th and 1, they just punt. That's a good call right there.
They should have gone for it there. But I don't want to see them go for it by, making Trey run between the tackles without any lead blockers. But we saw that again. He did that in the Arizona game last year. He did it again in this game. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why Kyle's calling the game the way it is, why he's treating Trey Lance like he's not really a quarterback, because he is. He's your quarterback.
Yeah, let's talk about Kyle Shanahan. A lot of people are going to focus on Lance. We'll go to Lance next, but to me, Kyle's the reason they lost this game. It was a bad week for Kyle. Trey Lance is your leading rusher. Shouldn't happen. As you said, he's not your Larry Zonka. Jordan Mason is your Larry Zonka.
Where was Jordan Mason there? That would have been a perfect spot. He was up. He was active.
Yeah, I mean, you saw 9 carries of Jeff Wilson. He didn't have it. Why not try someone else? So, decision-making. All those plays for Deebo Samuel and so few for Brandon Ayuk. Why? But let's just come back to Kyle, the head coach, not Kyle, the play caller. Kyle, the head coach. He got out coached by a rookie head coach making his first game. Like Matt Eberflus had a far inferior roster, and yet he had his guys ready to the point that they only committed 3 penalties, gave up 2 sacks, and had 1 turnover. They didn't beat themselves. They allowed the Niners to beat themselves. The Niners are the team that had 99 yards in penalty yardage, which was tied for the most in the league this week. And then last year, they were 3rd in the league in penalty yardage. And the penalties aren't from a bunch of young guys. It's Travarius Ward on 3rd down or Dre Greenlaw over and over. So to
Dre Greenlaw had a really bad game.
Yeah.
Azeez Al-Shaair had a very bad game.
These guys were dominant from Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just Kyle, it's D'Amico too. Yes. It's Kyle and D'Amico. They both have to wear this one. You can't just have a standard of, hey, we want our guys to fly around and make plays. It has to go beyond that. You have to you fly around and you make plays within the structure of the rules of the game. And it was, when a quarterback gives himself up, it's 2022. It's not 2017 or 1997. You cannot go with a hard hit to the quarterback's sternum, chest, neck, clavicle, or helmet when he's giving himself up and not drawing a personal foul penalty. Those penalties were punitive, very punitive, and it burned the 49ers in a bad way. And Kyle and D'Amico have to take responsibility for that.
All 3 of the Bears' touchdowns came after the 49ers had gotten a stop on 3rd down, but committed a defensive penalty that gave the Bears an automatic 1st down all 3 times. That can't happen. That's on them.
And only one of them was, the first one on Greenlaw on the sideline. Come on, NFL refs. These guys are not, Olympic gymnasts. They're 250-pound football players. You're going full bore on a wet field for Justin Fields, who's also athletic and, 225 pounds. And he's on the sideline, but he's not over the line. And you go dive towards him, and now suddenly he's got a toe that's on the white line. And you try to avoid him, but make some contact, and they throw the flag. That first one on Greenlaw was just criminal.
But big picture, I just don't like when after the game, Kyle's asked about all the penalties, and he's like, yeah, we got to get that cleaned up. You had to get it cleaned up last year. You were 3rd in the league last year in penalty yardage. Why is it still an issue? You're a really good offensive mind, but are you like too buddy with the players? Do you not command respect? I'm just asking, why is this still an issue? You're Kyle Shanahan. If you made this a point of emphasis, I feel like you could get this fixed, but I have this question with him because also he wants Trey Lance to be the quarterback, but Jimmy's still around, and he didn't make Trey Lance the starter last year. And I wonder, like, is he too beholden to the vets on this team? Does he need them to like him? If that's the case, because Harbaugh wasn't that way. I don't think Bill Walsh was that way. At a certain point, you got to be the bad guy sometimes.
Yeah, you definitely. We don't know what message he's delivering behind closed doors. For all we know, he starts they have a meeting every week about the ball and ball security. So, and yet they've struggled at times with turnovers. So it's like, are they meeting about it? Are they talking about it? Does he start every meeting with, guys, we want to fly around and make plays, but within the structure of the rules of the game, and we can't cross that line, or we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. We're going to get ourselves beat. Or is it mentioned once in passing at the beginning of a camp, beginning of training camp? Does he mention it and they don't emphasize it? Because either way, I hear the guys a lot talk about, and you do too when you talk to these players, hey, we got to fly around and make plays. Okay, it's a great mindset, and it's a great simplicity kind of attitude to have, but that has to come within the framework of how the game's officiated, or what are we doing here, right? I mean, it's key.
And there's something else, like Mike McDaniel beat Bill Belichick yesterday, okay? That was his first game as a coach. Matt Eberflus beat Kyle Shanahan yesterday in his first game as a coach, coaching the Bears. And not like, let's go back and look at Kyle in week 1. Okay. The first year he had Brian Hoyer, that was a terrible team. Let's not even look at, although we did lose 23-3, but 2018, he has Jimmy Garoppolo. There's high expectations for this team. They lose 24-16 in Minnesota. Jimmy Garoppolo goes 15 for 33, those 3 picks. His quarterback rating is 45. 2019, they win in Tampa, but Jimmy's 18 for 27 with a touchdown and a pick, and his quarterback rating is 80. Remember, he had a pick 6 in that game. 2020, he loses to Kyler at home, 19 for 33, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2021, they almost lose to Detroit. It seems like there's a little bit of a theme here with Kyle of not quite having his team ready to go week 1. I mean, by the end of the year, they're really, really good usually, but they don't play in the preseason. You're at training camp. I mean, it's not the most rigorous training camp. Feels like the team's kind of like still in preseason mode to me.
And this year, I mean, I'll say this. I didn't see every game in the league yesterday, but I watched a bunch. It just seemed like the 17-day break between preseason game number 3 and week 1. I don't know that anybody was well served with that. I mean, maybe guys felt a little bit more rested, but you're almost like guaranteeing that no matter how you tackled training camp, that you're going to enter the regular season with a little bit of rust. I mean, these guys are creatures of habit. They do the same thing on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They have their routine. And to just basically break up the routine and say, no, screw all that. You're now going to get nearly 3 weeks off, figure it out. I know it probably looks good on paper and probably works out for somebody in some area, but to me, the quality of the football wasn't there.
One last thing with Kyle in terms of his play calling. I don't understand how it could be so bad in the second half when it was so good in the first half. To me, he had a really good feel for not just the run game, but what Trey could do as a passer. A lot of play action and deep crossing routes and stuff that ended up being down the field and outside the numbers, or just outside the numbers in general. I thought that was great. And then the second half, all of a sudden we're getting slants and digs and a lot of stuff over the mid. I'm thinking, picks coming. Why did he do that?
All I can think is that he felt like the second half passes that he was calling were higher percentage, and with the conditions, I will say this, you could pretty much throw out anything in the fourth after about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, because that's when this field got unplayable. And in a way, I kind of feel like Trent Williams had the most interesting quote to me in the postgame, Grant, where he said, hey, when it was time for us to pass, the conditions were not favorable for passing. When it was time for the Bears to pass, when the Bears decided to pass early on, the conditions were better. In the second half, once they grabbed the lead, they went almost predominantly to running the ball, and then the conditions were almost perfect for them. So I don't know if they should have looked at their weather report, if they should have, I think that they left Danny Gray as inactive because they didn't think they were going to need to come from behind in the second half. They thought they would have the lead, and they probably wanted one more lineman, one more running back. I wonder if it came down to Jordan Mason or Danny Gray, and because of the conditions, they said, let's go Jordan Mason. They didn't wind up using Jordan Mason, but I think Danny Gray would have been nice to have. At least in the first half when it was drier, because to me, the one thing that Trey does really well and that I've seen him do consistently, throws that deep ball, and he throws it pretty accurately and almost effortlessly. Gray can get deep. So we'll see if that changes on Sunday.
Yeah. And just as far as Kyle as a leader, as a head coach, there's reports that he had to sit down with 15 of the vets and tell them to have Trey's back, and there's all these penalties and stuff. It's like, Kyle, you need to take control of this team. You know what I mean? It's your way. If the penalties are the issue, tell them that's the issue. If Trey's the quarterback, make sure they get that. Like, it's not a negotiation, man. It's your freaking team. That's all I want to say, because I do think you're a good coach who had a bad day yesterday.